Welcome back, everybody, to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Review Podcast, powered by the Roll Up Network. Just want to thank all our fans and listeners. I really appreciate the support. Just want to take the time just to say thank you very much for the continued growing support. Our most recent episode, Halloween Kills, is, as DJ Kyle would say, business is booming. I'm glad you guys are liking the episode. We had a great time recording it. As you can tell, it was over 2 hours with just three of us, so we obviously had a lot to say. But anywho, before we jump into tonight's film review, I just want to give a quick shout out to our website, don'tgoouthere.com. It's got everything about this podcast on there. Social medias, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. What else we got? TikTok and YouTube. I almost forgot. I'm getting old. Subscribe, like, follow us on those platforms. We love reading your comments, answering your questions. But our website also has our episodes, interviews, our blog. We've been posting our scripts from our pitch a sequel. We're posting our pitches there, so check that out. And we got some new merch. Check out our new shirts if you want to pick up a shirt. They're awesome. Brian did a fantastic job designing those. They look amazing. And the last thing I'll say before we get into the film review is check out our blood donors. We have two separate types of Patreons. A one-time donation if you want to come on our show one day, host with us. We have that level, and we have, if you just want us to review a movie, you can do that as well. And we have the monthly reoccurring, the common Patreon, I guess you could say. Super cheap, $5-10 a month if you want to help us, support us. We get a lot of fans who ask how they can help us. Join us on Blood Donors, or if you don't want to spend any money, you just aren't able, just share our post, retweet us, like us. Just simple stuff like that helps a lot. But let's jump into tonight's film review. It's my pick. I chose 1999 Sleepy Hollow. I think we've already done one Tim Burton, Johnny Depp movie, Sweeney Todd. Really enjoyed that movie, and I really enjoy this movie a lot too. I just think Tim Burton just has his style, and I really appreciated it in this movie. Johnny Depp was incredible, and I love seeing Christopher Walken as he's already like a crazy acting guy, but seeing him as a Headless Horseman was just awesome. But I like this movie a lot. I won't say I love it, but it's fun, and I wanted to pick something a little different. Brian, you want to go next?
Sure. This is such a good Halloween movie, right? I mean, it's just such a good movie to watch during the month of October. But so, like, this movie right here is another reason why I love doing this show. I've always loved this movie, but it was because I grew up with it, and alongside Wes Craven, to me, Burton has always been one of my favorite directors, which is well documented on the show. But doing this show allowed this deep dive and the history and the vision from Burton that I never knew. And just honestly, how brilliant this movie is on a completely different level. Like, I didn't know that he drew so much inspiration and basically made this not as like an homage, but in the direct style of Hammer horror films. And if you're like I was, I mean, very, very uneducated on Hammer horror. I mean, let me just give you a little lesson real fast so you can get ahead of the class. Hey, see what I did there? But if you don't know, Hammer Film was a company in London that is most known for their gothic and fantasy films of the 50s, 60s, and even into the 70s. It's what most of you and what I think about whenever you think of The Mummy, Frankenstein, Dracula. It's that unique look that differed from the source material books or short stories, but yet, like, it almost had this satire type of feel to it, for lack of a better description. But it's its own thing. Like, the word satire almost does it an injustice, but you couldn't have gotten a more perfect director than Burton if that's the style that you're going for. I mean, that's literally his trademark style. At this point, like, he'd already done Beetlejuice, Edward Scissorhands, the Batman movies, Nightmare Before Christmas. So anyway, sorry for talking so long. I just kind of felt like that was an important thing that, I learned and kind of felt like it should be shared too, in case some of you guys don't know that out there too.
Yeah, I'm a big Tim Burton fan as well. I think that he's one of the goats. I enjoy most of his movies. This movie is not as over the top as a lot of his movies are, but it still definitely has a lot of over the top. I mean, with the blood splashes, they're very exaggerated, and the vivid color of the blood compared to the pale contrast of the backdrop. Mm-hmm. So you can definitely tell it's a Tim Burton movie. I think the casting is great. I mean, from top to bottom, the casting is phenomenal. You got a couple of mainstays of the Harry Potter franchise in here. with the uncle and Dumbledore. So that was cool to see because I recently watched the Harry Potter movies a couple years ago for the first time, and so this is the first time I've watched this movie since then. I'm like, hey, I know them. Um,
Yep.
I'm a big Johnny Depp fan. I would definitely cast him over Brad Pitt if I were making a movie. So I think he knocks this one out of the park. Uh, I remember watching this movie back in the day and thinking it was really good. Like I said, it's been a while since I watched it. I'm glad you picked it. Watching it back, man, I think this movie ages really well for a 1999 movie. I couldn't remember when it was made, but I knew it was older. I was thinking like maybe 2004, 2005. But the fact that it was made in '99, like it looks great considering the time that it's been out. So I enjoy the movie still. It's definitely not consistent with the traditional Headless Horseman and Ichabod Crane storyline, but who cares? Get over it. Because I think that as is, it's a phenomenal movie.
Yeah, so I've seen this movie maybe 2 other times before doing this show. And I watched it back and I just forgot how much I liked this movie. And like Brian, that's why I like doing this show. Even if I watch a movie and I'm like, man, that stinks. Well, at least I know, or, I have that thought in my head. Well, this movie's not very good. This is one I'm so glad that we're getting to do now. It's a great pick, Nico, for once in your life. But to kind of piggyback off of what Brian said, yeah, you could tell that Tim Burton takes a lot of inspiration from those Hammer films that you mentioned. This also has a lot of giallo in it, or I believe I'm saying that right, where it's like a little campy. There's a mystery involved, that kind of that very Italian style of horror movie. That's pretty well. Malignant, this most recent, that's kind of in the same vein as far as that style of movie goes. We're a little campy, but not so campy where I can't take this movie seriously. And I feel like this movie toes that line so perfect. Look, I'm not the biggest Burton fan. I like a lot of his early stuff more than I do some of the stuff he's done later in his career. But this is up there with one of my favorites, and it's because it's a little different. Now the imagery is still awesome here. It's not so. This is definitely a Tim Burton movie, but it's dark, it's gray, it's like that on purpose, and it's a great Halloween movie. You get some subtle nods to Nightmare Before Christmas with some of the pumpkins. That's fun as a lover of that movie. And I love Johnny Depp here. This is one of my one of my favorite roles that he does. I think he plays it a little more serious, does just enough humor to kind of like okay, that was good. Like Christina Ricci in this movie as well. It's a good Halloween movie, like you said. Now there's some problems I have with it, but one of my small rant here, and Dustin already touched on it. Who gives a fuck if this movie follows a short story that's like 10 pages long from 1,000,000 years ago? Washington Irving wrote a good short story. Congratulations. It's called an adaptation for a reason. This takes the source material, changes it into what I think is a more compelling story. It's almost a crime drama in a setting that involves a headless horseman and ghosts and witches and stuff. So it has all the makings for a really good Halloween time film. So man, that stuff annoys me. I was doing my research a little bit earlier today, and I kept seeing all this like, well, he strays too far away from the original. Well, too fucking bad. I mean, you guys, everyone whined and moaned when he did that with Charlie in the Chocolate Factory. Well, guess which one Ronald Dahl's wife said was closer to the original? Tim Burton's. Just throwing that out there. So again, you guys, I feel like you're just complaining to complain, which we talked about in Halloween Kills. All right, small rant over. It just annoyed the piss out of me today because, by the way, I'm a fan of the Disney cartoon, the Ichabod Crane one. I think that's, for a cartoon, that shit is dark, man. I'm a fan, but it's a little slow, obviously, and it's not as good as this. Oh, I don't know why you're giving it a thumbs down. I like that movie when I was a kid, and they'd throw that on in class. Like, all right, let's do this, baby. A little spooky time. But no, really good movie. I'm glad we're getting to talk about it.
All right, y'all got any more opening thoughts before we jump into the scene by scene?
Nah, man. Let's do it.
I will say that I don't have nostalgia for this movie. Like, I just saw this movie for the first time just a couple months ago, really liked it. And I didn't see, if I saw the cartoon when I was younger, I don't remember it. And I just watched the cartoon on Disney Plus last night, and it was a snooze fest. It was pretty damn long, and
Well,
I pretty much
it's for
hated it.
kids, and you have no nostalgia, so I get
Hey
it.
man, I wish I had Crane's metabolism. That Joker ate everything and didn't gain a pound. That was the most impressive part.
He's too thin. Sorry for all you really thin people out there.
All right, let's jump into the scene by scene. The film starts with blood drops on the ground and someone writing their last will and testament, signed Peter Van Garrett. He's now being carted away in a horse and buggy, and we see a cool jack-o'-lantern in the field on a scarecrow. A horse runs past their cart, and we hear a sword unsheathed. The coachman has his head cut off. Peter escapes and stops at the jack-o'-lantern. He turns around and has his head chopped off. New York City, 1799. Ichabod Crane is called. Who finds a dead body in the river? We're at the jail now, and Crane tells the man at the jail we need to check his pathology to see if he died before he was thrown in the river. We're at the municipal watch house now, and the judge tells Crane of a story in Sleepy Hollow. It's a town 2 days away. An isolated farming community. 3 persons murdered with their head lopped off. Take these experimentations there to find the killer and bring back here for justice. Ichabod packs up and sets his cardinal free. He takes a buggy to Sleepy Hollow. We get opening credits and title card with beautiful nature shots. Ichabod makes it to town and looks around. He sees people shutting their upstairs windows as he passes, and he sees armed men at the watchtowers. He hikes up this driveway to the Van Tassel house. He's led inside as he notices a couple making out on the porch. Ichabod walks up to Katrina, who's blindfolded, and she kisses him. Her boyfriend, Brom, gets confrontational with Ichabod. Ichabod gives paperwork to Baltus, letting him know he's from New York to investigate murder in Sleepy Hollow. Katrina takes him upstairs to his room. Baltus introduces Ichabod to the men in the room, and Ichabod begins to name off the people murdered. Baltus asks him how much his superiors have explained to him. Their heads weren't found, he's told, taken by the Headless Horseman. The horseman was a Hessian from Germany, and now we see like the flashbacks, and we see the horseman riding the steed, battling and fighting, and he has sharp teeth. He met his end at the winter of 79. He's followed into the snowy woods where he finds 2 twin girls. One snaps a twig, giving away his location. He fights off the men until he's like stabbed in the side. Then he has his head chopped off. He's buried in the ground and called a seed of evil. He's on a rampage. We see Ichabod shaking, holding his tea glass. Ichabod says he's a man of flesh and blood, and he will be discovered. Nighttime now, and Jonathan is on lookout for the horseman. We hear a horse galloping, and we hear a gunshot. Jonathan is chased into the woods by the horseman. He runs and runs as fast as he can, but he has his head cut off. All right, go ahead, Brian. That's the opening scenes I got.
So Burton's always been so damn good with establishing atmosphere, and it's no different here. The atmosphere to me in this movie is tremendous. You get that trademark gothic, almost otherworldly look that just kind of sucks you in. And actually, this was going to be full Hammer horror and was going to even be black and white, but Burton decided to go with this monochrome, almost diseased look, and obviously that would carry over when he did Sweeney Todd as well. Um, and hell, this entire town was built from the ground up, including the forest, rooms, floors, stairs. I don't know what the hell the budget is. I'm sure we'll hear it from Mike later, but that thing, it had to be outrageous. The crew said actually that walking around on set felt like, quote, walking around in Tim Burton's head. I mean, shit, that would be cool as hell. I wish that was still up somewhere.
So that'd be a lot of fun. I'd take that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's to start out with here. You mentioned the nod to Nightmare Before Christmas. The Scarecrow when Van Garrett, Martin Landau, by the way, who's another Burton staple with Ed Wood, Frankenweenie, and others, I'm sure. But when he gets his head cut off by the Headless Horseman, it's like the opening and the Scarecrow from the Nightmare Before Christmas. So obviously that's a direct nod, plus all the other ones you were talking about too. I love the character that Burton helped create here of Ichabod Crane, and just about as much as any, I think, of any character that Depp plays as well, Mike. It's so freaking deep. You have this Joker who's basically socially inept, and hell, you can say he's kind of a dick because he's so brash and has somewhat of like a monk type feel sometimes, where he's sort of like a brilliant idiot type. But he's a social outcast, which mean, this is classic Tim Burton. I mean, he champions these types of people in all of his movies and makes them, I mean, I would say viable to the story to where by the end of the movie, these people have changed their entire environment around them for the good. I mean, Edward Scissorhands, even Batman. Hell, Bruce Wayne's an outsider. I mean, shit, this is Tim Burton in a nutshell as an artist, anyway. His style is, and I mean, you either love it or you hate it, but regardless, it's his style. He's the outsider that makes these movies outside of the box of what we're getting in honestly whatever time period he's making movies. I mean, 80s, 90s, early 2000s. Dustin's here probably nodding his head because he's probably like, why the fuck don't you like Rob Zombie then, Brian? And that's a good comparison, obviously. I mean, honestly, as far as the outsider aspect goes, for sure.
Yep.
And look, I've always had a thing for Christina Ricci ever since Casper. And before you go all weird and cancel me, I was 12 when I saw Casper, and when it came out, she was 15. So get off my back,
Pervert.
But I knew it was coming.
she
Winona
said.
Ryder was offered. Winona Ryder was actually offered the role of Katrina, but turned it down. So we almost had an even bigger Beetlejuice reunion there with Jeffrey Jones. Lastly, I wanted to point out that, again, I think this gives so much depth to this movie. I mean, we're introduced to basically the film's villains in my eyes here with these old men in Van Tassel's office, which is, and I'll say something I haven't said since we did Silence of the Lambs, but it just adds layers upon layers because these men are like meant to represent what's wrong with society at really, I mean, shit, any time, but definitely the pillars of like this world that he's built here. And, the old world goes, as far as that goes, wealth, religion, law, hell, many times religion and law are one and the same back then. And, again, you can definitely say that this has always been relevant no matter the time period. But as far as this one goes, if something happens or someone acts, it's not within these confines of these quote unquote like pillars. Like I said, you're outcast, you're put to death. And hell, even here in this movie, like science, his quote unquote science is like looked at as witchcraft. It's just it's very cool to get these things and these layers revealed to you, like even after all these years. And I'd watched this movie so many times. Hell, it doesn't even matter how many times you've seen the movie. If you watched it a bunch when you were little, and like me, and then I'm getting this now and seeing these things, I think it's great layers. Anyway, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, we have very similar thoughts here, man. No surprise there, going back to the early days of the show, at least. So right off the bat, I just love I've said this a million times about other movies, so no shocker. The mood and atmosphere that this movie captures is awesome. It right off the bat, you're in this dark, gritty, spooky, for lack of a better term, world. And like you said, they built their own town for it, but it looks like colonial New York, America. It's really, really good to the time, or true to the time, as true as we know it to be, anyways. And so I really like that. It's great, and I like Johnny Depp's portrayal of Ichabod Crane. That short story, it's very one note, no layers, really, just a spooky, scary story to tell by the campfire, and that's great. What we have here with this script and this screenplay is something much deeper, which you touched on, that starts with Johnny Depp's portrayal of Ichabod Crane. Like, he's not the school teacher or whatever, like he is in the short story. He's this basically scientific investigator, or however you want to call it. And the true horror of this movie is not the Headless Horseman, which I really like that they added that. That's not the scary, spooky part of this movie. It is this law that, the four guys that you talked about. And even before they go to Sleepy Hollow, it's the judge and everyone in the courtroom in New York. That's the scary part of this movie is this is the law. This is the way we do things. And anything against that is wrong. It's witchcraft. You can be hung, tried, whatever. And I think that resonates through multiple generations of people. So you can always turn this movie on and take away something different from it. Like you said, if you're 10 years old, man, and all you see in this movie is spooky Headless Horseman guy, cool. That's awesome. And it's good as that alone. But then you get all this nuance and all these layers. I love it. And I think it's great. I love the smug, brash persona of Ichabod Crane here. It's a very different take on every other one that we've seen so far, before and after this. So I like that. I love the visuals and the shots were to be the opening credits slash Ichabod Crane going from New York to Sleepy Hollow. I love the visuals there. I think they're great. If there's one thing Tim Burton gets right, it's visuals. And I think he gets that really, really right. Then you get to Sleepy Hollow. And first of all, one thing I want to say, Ichabod Crane not stating his name is not rude. The guy's like, you need manners. I don't need manners. I'm about to punch you in the fucking face, son. Kiss my ass. You grab my arm. I don't want to hear that. Anyway, just saying. By the way, if Christina Ricci kissed me on the cheek, brothers, might have to forget about the case. I got some business to tend to. All these murders. Y'all can figure this thing out yourself. But anyway, hey, Christina, call me sometime. Anyway, I like these four guys. They kind of they represent something different that's wrong with this society, and this guy that claims to be I'm just your town farmer that people love and blah, blah, blah. No, man, you run the show here. You're smug on accident, if that makes any sense. Like, I don't think he even intends to. This is just who he is. And I like that. And I like all four guys and the representation. I like that we get the story of the Headless Horseman, and I like the portrayal of that. I'm going to catch a lot of heat. That's okay, but I'm just going to say my take anyway. I have a really hard time taking Christopher Walken serious in this role. All I can think about is his goofy characters, more cowbell, and he's Joe Dirt's. You're talking to my guy all wrong. Do it again, stab me in the face with a soldering iron. That's all I think about when I see him as a Headless Horseman, and I can't help it. Like, it's just one of those things where you see a certain guy in certain roles for so long. I have a really hard time like taking that away. And so he looks kind of campy and goofy to me. If that's on purpose, I'm okay with that. It's just not my favorite. It's not what I would have done, but I'm not the one that's a millionaire. I'm sitting in a chair behind this microphone talking about a millionaire's movies. So what do I know? But just not my favorite thing. But I like the portrayal that we get. And I love the action and the shots that we get filming those scenes, though. It's great. And then you get to Jonathan's death, and this is pretty much all I have. The clean swipe of the neck that we get, like, all of these kills are the same, but they all look awesome. Like, even the head rolls, which, if you really look hard enough, you could be like, but I think they're so enjoyable. They're done so well, especially for 1999. I mean, they think they hold up really well. And Dustin mentioned this. The visuals of how red the blood is against the monochrome background of this movie, it's beautiful. It's a weird beautiful because it's blood, obviously, but I think it's done really well. So yeah, that's all I had.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's a great opening scene. I love how the hard open we get, the carriage walking or rolling into town, and we get the murder, and we don't see the Headless Horseman. I love that. Like, they save it for a little while, and they let us wonder what's going on here. I did have a little nitpick, and maybe I can forgive it because it is 1999. But that opening kill when the driver of the carriage, when his head's cut off and we see the body, like, it looked very fake. Like, I don't know. I just had an issue with the way the body looked holding the reins out while its head was missing. And then, the heads themselves looked a little cartoonish as they're, after they're decapitated, after their kappas were detated. Yeah. But overall, I mean, since it is 1999, 21 years ago, I think it's fine. Now, I'd mentioned this earlier. I did like when we get introduced to all the old men. Like I said, you got Aldous Dumbledore there. You've got Uncle Vernon. You've got Principal Rooney from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It's like a great cast there. I read that too, Brian, about Winona Ryder being offered the role. I kind of, in retrospect, like, I would have rather have seen that. I think that she would have been fantastic in the role, and Christina Ricci did fine. This is not a knock on her. It's just, I think I would have liked to see what that would have looked like. Overall, I think it was a great job also of, this was
probably one of the first movies, in the horror genre that had in mainstream movies that had this many decapitations that were shown on screen like that. And for what they were, I mean, I think they were great. You mentioned they all be the same. I mean, they do give us some variation. We get them from the front, we get them from the back.
Yeah,
we get one a little bit later that I like a lot. And you mentioned, and I mentioned how great the blood looks, how vivid it is. Obviously it looks a little, not really cartoonish, but it's a little much. Like blood's not really that bright, but it works because the rest of this movie has such a dark tone to it. And to achieve that effect, the exteriors were shot with a blue filter. So the blood, in order for it to appear red, it was actually had to be a liquid that was bright orange. And I think it came across great. I really like this opening scene because you get a different backstory from Ichabod Crane. I'm good with that. It makes more sense to me that he's an investigator rather than being a teacher. That's it adds to this storyline for where we're trying to get. I like that. Now you mentioned Christopher Walken. I like the fact that he doesn't have dialogue in this movie, because if he spoke, then I could definitely see what you're saying. I would have to think of. Well, actually, maybe he could borrow.
There's one thing at the end. Yeah, I think one thing he should have said at the end, but we'll save it.
Well, maybe he should have borrowed from his Secretary Cleary role of Wedding Crashers, but instead of Todd, he said, "Ichabod, tell that mean ocean." I think I would have laughed my ass off. That would have been great. But I really like the opening set of scenes. It intrigues me from the beginning, just because I know maybe I'm already intrigued going into it because it's Tim Burton, it's Johnny Depp, it's Christopher Walken, but it lived up to the expectations that I would have reading that on paper and then watching it.
One more point. If you told me this was back that up. If you didn't tell me this was a Tim Burton movie and I went in and didn't see the opening credits, I would not have thought it was a Tim Burton movie.
Really?
I think it's that different from most of his other stuff. Now, knowing it's a Tim Burton movie, I see it. But if I watch it for the first time and didn't know, I wouldn't think it was. I really wouldn't.
See,
interesting.
I think it's very similar to Sweeney Todd.
It is.
Except for Sweeney Todd's a musical, obviously.
Right.
One thing about it is, anytime you get Tim Burton and Johnny Depp, the movie's definitely not going to blow.
Right.
Johnny Depp.
This guy.
Johnny
this
Depp?
Guy.
Okay.
But hey, one more thing I wanted to point out before you go. Casper Van Dien, who's Captain Johnny fucking Rico from Starship Troopers, which I love, by the way. But so you guys know this, but our audience may not. But I'm from a small town right on the outskirts of Pensacola called Milton, right? I mean, I tell people I'm from Pensacola if they ask, just because nobody knows where the hell Milton is. But I'll be damned if Casper Van Dien isn't from Milton, Florida as well.
Man.
We have a few sports stars, but I don't know any actors that are. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out as well.
I just like that this movie keeps everything in the dark shadows. All right, back to you guys.
Come on, Jace.
All right, Killian gives Ichabod a horse now named Gunpowder. We hear a gunshot and someone yells, "The horseman has killed again." The men go to the woods and investigate the crime scene. We see the victim, Jonathan Masbeth. The head has been taken. Ichabod questions why was the head removed if we know who it is. He notices the stride of the horse is gigantic. He pours some chemicals on the ground and puts on some cool, funky glasses. Ichabod says the wound was instantly cauterized, but there's no burnt flesh. We're at Jonathan's funeral now, and everyone pays their respects. Young Masbeth runs to Ichabod and says he pledges his service to him. Magistrate Phillips tells Ichabod he's not the fourth victim, but the fifth. They dig up the coffins. 5 victims, 4 graves. They take the widow into the doctor's office. Ichabod kicks everyone out the operating room. He cuts open the stomach wound, and blood shoots all over him. He walks outside and says, "I am finished. We are dealing with a madman." The widow was with child. Ichabod rides his horse along the bridge and hears a horse approach. He calls out for who's there. A headless horseman chases after him now, and he hits Ichabod with a flaming pumpkin, knocking him off his horse, and he rides away. We see it was Brahm playing a trick on Ichabod. Now we have a flashback of young Ichabod with his mother. He gives her flowers, and they approach a furnace where she throws the flowers in the fire. She tucks him in bed and spins this like pendant medallion with a cardinal and a cage on it. He sees a man in the window outside and awakes from his nightmare dream. Ichabod goes downstairs and meets with Katrina. Katrina says almost everyone in Sleepy Hollow is related somehow. The Van Garretts are the richest here. She gives Ichabod a book of her mother's to help and protect him. Ichabod and Katrina go to a hearth and she notices weird markings on his hands. Katrina says she'd love to have a cardinal, but she just couldn't cage it. Ichabod shows her the necklace with the cardinal and the cage spinning it. Ichabod follows Magistrate Phillips out of town. They talk about the widow and her child. He's bound by office to keep it a secret. Ichabod says there is no horseman. Now the sheep begin to panic and the owls hoot. We hear a horse approach. It's the Headless Horseman, and it slices Magistrate Phillips' head off. It rolls between Ichabod's legs, and the horseman stabs into the head and rides away. Ichabod is terrified, still in his bed. It was a Headless Horseman, he says, panicky. That's why you're here, Baltus says jokingly. Another flashback, we see young Ichabod walking through the woods and dancing with his mother, spinning in circles. We see her levitating as she spins around. We now see his father showing her scripture in a door with a white room and a red door opens. He wakes up. Ichabod tells him he needs able men to go into the northern woods with him, and only young Masbeth volunteers. All right, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, so this cracked me up. I mean, and it's almost tongue-in-cheek quality like those Hammer films that we were talking about earlier. But even the line, "You must never move the body." Well, why not? Because I don't know. Shit, I laughed. I thought that was funny. And it's almost like making this statement about the world, and it's all serious, and and that. But then you have this kind of almost like Ghostbusters science, where you're like getting a chemical reaction tells you the head was cut off with a singular thrust. You're like, what? Okay, all right. So in this world, we're doing this. So deal with it, type of thing. So anyway, I like it. I like how it's established in that. I also like how they had the little scene with Brom and the fake horseman thing. Is kind of almost a nod to what that short story was. I haven't read it, but from what I understand, the story, is almost a Scooby-Doo episode, and the fact that it's like implied the whole time that the horseman is just someone, maybe I guess Braun, dressed up and then unmasked at the end by those kids.
And then they kind of leave it on a cliffhanger of, wait, is this Headless Horseman real as the story ends? Like the things keep happening and it. Oh wait, I thought this thing was fake. Maybe not. That's kind of that's what it is.
Those meddling kids. Anyway, I also like how it gives you this backstory with Crane's mother. She was played by Depp's then girlfriend Lisa Marie Smith, by the way, but it gives Crane some more depth in my eyes, and I know it tells you more later, but it helps not only set you more in this whole time period, like we talked about, where you could accuse anyone of witchcraft and they'd be killed justly or whatever, but it helps shows you the way that he is as far as like why he's fighting against the norms of the society at the time, because he was betrayed by them in a sense. And his mom was murdered, but she was murdered within those quote unquote norms, and it was legal. So I like that. I feel like it gives you a lot of depth to the character in a short period of time. There's a ton in this set of scenes with the foreboding, with the book, and the Archer information and everything. A little nitpick of mine though, is that it was all a little bit too quick. But in a movie that's almost 2 hours anyway, I don't know what else you really could do but make it longer. But it seemed to me like a really quick for Katrina to kind of jump to like, oh, hey, want to go see my old family home when we were poor, even though we just talked like one time ever? Just seemed like rushed. I don't know. And I mean, they're about to like make out in the next scene. It just, I don't know. But the line, I will give them credit. I guess so. But the line, it's the truth, but the truth is not always appearance. That was said here. I thought it was a very powerful line. Like I thought that was very well written. That's something that stood out to me about this set of scene. And and lastly, something I didn't understand though, when Magistrate Phillips was leaving in the middle of the night because of him, whatever, going outside of those pillars of acceptance, like I talked about, and telling the about the baby, but which is a little confusing to me because I mean, to me, I would think he would be scared of the others and not really the horseman in that regard. But why does Crane think that this is the real horseman? Like, why does he not just think that this is the same dude who messed with him earlier? Because I mean, he heard him laughing. He knew that was kind of a messing with him thing earlier. Like I don't know, and and the Horseman didn't do anything like supernatural to make him believe that, hey, I'm the real Horseman. I don't know. I didn't really understand the reasoning for that. I would have liked to have seen that done a little bit differently. Go ahead.
Yeah, my only thing on that, I think I kind of have it in my notes. The difference: one throws the pumpkin, which is again like the short story. That's kind of like a thing that the Horseman does. And
Yeah, but
then
you would think
right,
the supernatural one would be throwing the pumpkin that's lit
right,
on fire, not
right.
the dude dressed up. So
But the dude,
the Horseman didn't do anything.
but the real one has a sword to cut your head off. So like, I guess if I had to kind of give some kind of answer, that's the only thing I could think of. But because I thought of that too, I'm kind of like, well, what's the difference here? But I'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
Yeah. So I love how this Ichabod Crane character is like becoming, weird science. He's got all these, funky tools and weird chemicals that don't really mean anything, but to him they do. And it's again, it's not like voodoo witchcraft. It's like the movie Weird Science, or it's fun. I like the character. There's some humor here to kind of lighten up the mood after a head gets cut off. I kind of like it in this case. The scene where he's pouring the powder there and talks about the clean swipe. I think that's really, really good. I also agreed that the relationship is a little rushed, but you almost don't have time to flesh it out. So like, that's the one thing they kept in a way, was him and Katrina being a thing. And so if you're going to keep that, because in the original story, that's also rushed. Like, he's after her heart, and there's somebody else there and all that other stuff. So, and you don't really get a lot from Braun. Actually, you don't really get anything from Braun except his death after this fake Horseman thing. So like, all that's kind of gone. So I agree with you. It's a little rushed, but I understand why it's rushed, because there is more important things in the story. So you could either A, remove it all together, or B, forgive that. I guess I chose to forgive it. I love God. How do you say this kid's name? Because they said it a million times in this movie, and every time it sounds like something different, and I hate to mispronounce it. His last name here, because
Masbeth?
Young Masbeth?
Masbeth. Thank you. Okay. Look, I like the inclusion of this kid. I think it works really, really well. And I think Depp plays off of him well, especially when he initially rejects him, and you're kind of like, man, I don't want that from Ichabod Crane. Like, I want him to kind of, I still want him to be smug and arrogant, but I want him to be, nice enough anyway. And so he kind of uses his help. He's kind of drugging into that kicking and screaming. I like that a lot. And the fact that he's the only one that wants to go fight with him, I understand that too. I really love this fake Horseman scene, though. I think it because to me, the first time I ever saw it, I'm thinking, wow, we're getting into this quick. And because of the pumpkin, I'm thinking it's the real one, because in the original story, those pumpkins, that's a thing. That's a story and narrative that's established. And so I'm like, all right, here we go. We're going to have him convinced, and it's a fake. And I think that adds a little bit of, oh, okay, I like that. And then the real one, by the way, this Headless Horseman is basically, I know he's dead, but he's basically Jason Voorhees, man. He could do anything. He could kill anybody with one swipe. He can withstand any bullet or anything. Again, I know he's a zombie. I got it. But man, he's freaking ruthless. I love him as a horror villain anyway. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have. I will say this, I won't say it's my favorite set of scenes, but it's pretty close. Towards the end, I think the stuff before the end is my favorite set of scenes, but this is a pretty good set here.
Yeah. So I like this set. This set of scenes is pretty good. I like that the prank was included, and it's a pretty solid tribute to the original story. With the way that it was carried out. I appreciate that, because, if you're going to borrow from an original idea and make it your own, at least have nods and tips of the cap. So I think that was a great way to do it. I love, and something that we get throughout the movie, whenever the Headless Horseman is approaching or coming, I love that the animals are used as a tip, as a warning, as a siren to let you know that, hey, shit's about to go down. or it's like the atmosphere changes. Like the way that Burton sets the atmosphere to let you know that the horseman's coming, I think is great. As far as Magistrate Phillips's death, that's the one I mentioned earlier. I love the way it was done because when his head was cut off, it wasn't just a clean swipe. He hit it with such force that the head kind of spun on the body before it fell off. I thought that was fantastic. I also really like the courage of young Masbeth. I think it's funny too that it seems to be a trend when Tim Burton and Johnny Depp team up in the movies. I mean, it's very similar to how Toby joined forces with Sweeney Todd. Johnny Depp always seems to have a young sidekick that's willing to go, be his apprentice almost. And so I like that little thing that's kind of like a calling card of those two working together. So overall, I mean, it's another great set of scenes to advance the story. I agree with what you're saying there, Brian, though. There were some things that felt rushed, even though it's a 2-hour movie. It's almost like the timing and the spacing of certain plot points were off. Some things were stretched out when they could have been condensed to make others make sense more. But overall, it's another solid set of scenes that I was pleased with.
Well, and something else I wanted to bring up, the score. It's such another just amazing Danny Elfman classic.
Yeah.
I mean, if you listen to our Beetlejuice episode, I talked about how much I love Elfman. I mean, his Batman '89 theme is still like the Batman theme of all Batman themes, in my opinion. But I just wanted to point that out. Like, Elfman's just amazing in this too.
I'm glad you said that. I have that at the end where I think Elfman's music once again is fantastic.
Our Ichabod and young Masbeth go into the woods, and he says something must connect the victims. He says his dad worked in the coach house, but he now tells of an argument between the Van Garretts a week before the murders. He now points out to Ichabod that there's no sound, no birds, no crickets. Ichabod gets spooked and quickens pace. They tie their horses up and make it to a cave. I just wrote it as a cave. That's what it looked like to me. They walk inside and see a woman living there. She knows they're from the Hollow. He knows that she's a witch. She puts down a dead cardinal and approaches them. Young Masbeth leaves, and Ichabod stays in there with the woman. She binds herself so she can't reach him. She tells Ichabod of the Headless Horseman. She drains blood out of a bird, and she reveals herself as a witch. Follow the Indian trail where the sun dies to the Tree of the Dead, the horseman's resting place. She collapses on him, and Ichabod storms out and tells young Masbeth we're leaving. Ichabod sees another person jumping off his horse to scope it out. It's Katrina. She says no one else would go. He thanks her white magic, and young Masbeth interrupts their kiss. They make it to the Tree of the Dead. Ichabod touches the tree, and there's blood coming out of the tree. He begins to hack at it with a hatchet, and it squirts blood everywhere. He pulls back on the broken piece of tree and sees decapitated heads in it. He says it's a portal between two worlds. He digs up and finds the horseman's grave. He says the horseman takes heads to restore his own. We now see the horseman march out of the tree where the heads were. It races into the woods to kill. Ichabod jumps on his horse and chases after the Headless Horseman, but can't keep up. Killian's son lights the lamp, and his mom gets him ready for bed. Killian notices the ground shake, and the horseman breaks into their home. Killian battles the horseman as Beth hides their son underneath the cottage. Killian has his head chopped off. The horseman finds Beth now, killing her while holding Killian's head. The horseman chops into the floor now and finds the little boy, snatching him from underneath the house. Bram answers the screams, and he shoots the horseman off his horse. The horseman stands up, walks towards Bram, and they fight. Ichabod tells Bram he's not after you, but they both fight the horseman now. They stab the horseman with a scythe and run across the bridge. He climbs across the top, descending behind them. He stabs Ichabod in the shoulder area and then chops Bram in half with an axe. All right, go ahead, Brian.
It cracked my ass up with Crane using Masbeth as basically a shield as they walked into that cave without knocking, by the way. And then he says, like, I make no assumptions about your occupation. Which. I mean, I didn't get that. I didn't get that as a kid, but it made me laugh now. It's kind of a dad joke. I loved it. And go outside, child. Whatever you hear, go away. Like, holy shit. I was like, is she about to rape this man up in here or what? And Crane is like, what is he supposed to not hear? I mean, like, I thought that was funny, but I could have done without the CG eyes popping out. I think actually it would have been a little bit creepier and scarier if they didn't have, that part, if it was just the black eyes, I think it would have looked scary and not cheesy. And it wasn't until he started hacking at that tree of the dead that I thought, what this reminds me of? Van Helsing. It's that like almost campiness in the scene where I was like, oh shit, that is a lot like Van Helsing. I finally put my finger on it. Blood Tree was a great visual though, with those gushing white sound effects. But a mess up, I'm pretty sure, when it shows the horseman originally being buried at the start of this movie, he has all his armor, everything on. But when Crane digs him up, he's just a skeleton. I mean, we aren't talking about like thousands and thousands of years passing here. I mean, it's only like a couple of decades. Like, I think that was a mess up to not have the clothes or not have the stuff on armor on him too. Also, another little nitpick here: Crane deducing that he's like taking heads until his heads return to him. I don't know. It seemed like something that should have been like told by the old witch instead of him just coming to that conclusion himself. When he's not really believed in anything supernatural at all up until now. He made a pretty big leap there pretty quickly, just in my opinion. But holy shit, we get a great head chop off with Killian. Then a kid watches his mom get beheaded, and then fucking kid gets it. I guess the horseman was just like chop chop, and now I'll be heading out.
Aha!
Hey. Anyway, I don't know. I don't know of another more fuck them kids moment than that right there. And last a little tidbit here, real fast. In like every other movie, Brahm would be the hero, but here he suffers the same fate as Count Dooku did in Star Wars Episode 3 at the hands of Anakin. And funny enough, the doctor that looks at him right here is Emperor Palpatine himself,
Yep.
Ian McDiarmid. So, a little fact though, also Casper Van Dien broke his index finger of his left hand while he was doing this fight. Although it was supposedly extremely painful, he carried on without telling anyone, as he didn't want his part cut short. So I thought that was a little awesome battle too, by the way. Just go ahead.
Before you go, Mike, I just want to say, Brian, I did not understand a thing you said once you
I
brought
know
up
you-
Star Wars.
Me either. I have no idea what you're talking about. I know the names, but I have no idea. Okay, so first of all, here's the Man Fuck Them Kids award of this film. Don't be interrupting my kiss. You get the fuck out of here, Mass Beth. I don't want to hear. Man, come on, dog. I know things are happening. You could at least let us kiss first, and then we'll get on down the road, man. Come on. Anyway, look, I don't have a ton here, but what I do have is more so just how much I love this scene with the tree. It's campy in a way, but the way it's shot, and because again, we're in this very dark, moody atmosphere anyway. And so even though, the blood squirting and the color of the blood and the heads, all that's a little camp, we're taking the rest of this movie just serious enough to where it doesn't bother me. Like, I think it looks awesome. I love the fact that they discover this is the Tree of Death. This is where the horseman's buried. I like the skeleton being there. Like, I love all these shots. Like, I'm a really, really big fan of what they did here. Johnny Depp has really funny, like, goofy ass faces. So when he gets splattered with the blood for the first time, I laugh every time. It's hilarious to me. And again, it's the heads inside the tree. While Dustin pointed out, and I agree with him, that they look a little bad now, but for 1999, those are some pretty cool effects, man. Like, I'll be honest, because there was a lot worse that came after this movie as far as effects. So, like, they did a pretty good job where I don't really notice it unless that's what I'm looking for, like we do in this show. By the way, I know I said we don't get a lot more from Brahm. We kind of do, I guess, because here comes his death. But he didn't really add anything from a character standpoint. He's just kind of there to die, take one. And I love the interaction with him and Crane is so weird to me because they're supposed to kind of be enemies, but also Crane kind of tries to help him. Like, it's a weird dynamic. And, one more thing, and you mentioned it, Brian. I love the death of Killian here. Also, Headless Horseman was on some fuck them kids because he went full Michael Myers in the most recent movie and just killing kids, man. Chop my man's head off. That is some set. Imagine being a kid hiding underneath the floorboard. You see your mom's head tumble, the eyes looking at you, and then you get your own head chopped off. That It's some crazy shit, man. So yeah, I think it's a really good set of scenes, moves the story along, and I love the visuals in these scenes are really, really, really good.
Yeah. So I do like Crane chopping at the tree and the realization there. I think it's a great optic as well. The blood splatter is very excessive, and I just think it's so over the top that it's great. The heads, like you said, they do kind of look bad, but for the time, this is what I was meaning earlier. I didn't mean to shit on the way they look. It's just one of those things that in 2021, it's like, that could have been better. But for the time, I think they look fine. Crane using people as a shield is actually a theme in this movie, because I have that in my notes for the last set of scenes as well. The ending, he kind of stands behind Christina Ricci as well. But I think it's funny because that's one of the things about Ichabod Crane, and Tim Burton actually said this. So every portrayal of Ichabod Crane throughout history has been an ugly person. And Johnny Depp actually offered to do prosthetics or makeup or something to make himself less attractive because he's one handsome son of a bitch. But Tim Burton said no. He wanted to highlight the ugly internal characteristics. So not the physical attributes, but you wanted him to have a lot of qualities that are not very appealing. And one of them is his cowardice and his, his over-the-top eccentric nature as well. But so I think that the way that it's done is not too over the top and noticeable in every scene, but there's certainly moments where you're like, this guy's kind of not the best person. Yeah, and I also had the Man Fuck Them Kids award. So listen, I can't just give it to one scene in this movie, because how do you pick? Yeah, he killed this kid's parents in front of him and then dug his ass out from underneath the floor and killed him. But he also killed a pregnant lady. He didn't give that kid a chance. And so
fair point. Fair point.
Ichabod Crane, or the Headless Horseman just said fuck all them kids, so he gets the award this week, just in general, for outstanding. That's a lifetime achievement award for outstanding work in the fuck them kids field. I think it's another good set of scenes. There's not really bad set of scenes in this movie. Some of the storyline kind of jumps and gets a little hard to follow, I think, at times, or not really hard to follow, but it's just like, is that really logical at times? But you can forgive it. I think the movie's so visually stunning and appealing that I'm still all in. I love it.
The doctor now tends to Ichabod's wounds. Katrina now is concocting a remedy for him. He tells them the horseman doesn't kill at random, but is chosen by someone, by the person who took his skull and knew where to dig. Ichabod's dad walks out the church as young Ichabod walks into a room full of medieval torture devices. He sees his mom in the Iron Maiden, and we see him get his scars on his hands. He tells Katrina of his dreams and how his mother was killed by his father. He was 7 and he lost his faith. He says he shouldn't have come to this place. He says a kiss from a lovely young woman would make this trip worth it. She says she shed her tears for Brom, but her heart isn't broken. She now embraces Ichabod. Lady Van Tassel now tends to him. Ichabod now talks about the 4 frightened men arguing, the doctor, the reverend, notary, and the magistrate. He now begins to figure it out by process of elimination. He looks at the family tree, and he has young Masbeth follow him to notary Hardenbrooks. Masbeth finds his father's satchel, and Ichabod asks for the last will and testament of Old Man Van Garrett. Masbeth finds the will and testament, and Ichabod finds out Old Man Van Garrett married the widow. The 4 elders knew of the marriage. Notary says he didn't know it was a murdering plot. He now recaps the deaths. Baltus Van Tassel, the next of kin to inherit a fortune. Ichabod makes it back and finds Katrina in his room. She tells him her father thinks he should return to New York. Katrina leaves his room, and he panics when he sees a spider crawl under his bed. Masbeth moves Ichabod's bed, and they see the evil eye drawn under his bed. All right, go ahead, Brian.
So that scene with Ichabod's mom and the torture device, and how it's just like falling out with all that blood, kind of gave me flashbacks of another Depp movie with a pool of spraying blood. A little Nightmare on Elm Street, maybe? Just me? Okay. But anyway, this is apparently a callback to The Pit and the Pendulum, starring Vincent Price. And I have not seen that particular Vincent Price moving picture show. However, Vincent Price is the fucking man. But apparently, it's namely the way she's calling Ichabod's name, and then the shot of her eyes and the torture apparatus. But in this line, I mean, murdered by a Bible-backed tyrant, hiding behind a mask of righteousness. Like, holy shit! Like, what a line! That's such powerful writing right there. And then I kind of laugh because we get Christina Ricci's character saying, I have shed my tears from Brahm, yet don't give a fuck. I mean, I may be paraphrasing a little bit there, but that's basically what she said.
No, that was line for line, exactly what she said.
Man, it's pretty close to what she said.
Yeah.
But finally we get a little bit more from the lady of the house, Miranda Richardson. And Dustin talked about earlier the other Harry Potter alumna. She is too. She was Rita Skeeter in Harry Potter. Well, and actually, I think you said Magistrate Phillips, Richard Griffiths, who aided at the start of the movie. Yeah, you said that they were both in the Harry Potter movies as well. And just as soon as I get done taking notes on this and them being in Harry Potter, Notary Hardenbrook pops up on the screen, and I'm like, Alfred fucking Pennyworth, right there from Batman. Rest in peace, by the way, Michael Gough. You're the fucking man. That's all I really have on the set of scenes. I like the setting up there, the herring with Katrina. I think, we talked about Winona taking the role, but I think Ricci is the perfect one to play this like that because, she's, when I watched this time, even I didn't remember a ton of it. It's been a long time since I watched it, but I even got the red herring vibe from Katrina that she may be involved here a little bit. So, and I don't know, Winona Ryder's great, but it's just there's something about Ricci that she barely even has to play that to give that vibe. I don't know. It's weird. Maybe that's just me. Anyway, go ahead, Mike.
Now I have a little bit of that, in this section of notes where I talk about she's kind of the light to everything else that's kind of dark in this movie. And so I think Christina Ricci plays that role perfectly, whereas I don't know if Winona could have done that. Not saying she couldn't have. Obviously, she's a talented actress. I don't want to give that impression. But, like, for me personally, I'm so used to seeing, a younger Winona Ryder in Beetlejuice and some other dark stuff, and even more recently Stranger Things, where she's the mom, and so you're kind of like this role was kind of perfect for Christina Ricci, in my opinion. I find it funny that Johnny Depp's asleep. He was dreaming almost like he was having a nightmare on Elm Street. Thank you. That one's for you, Eric, because I know you hate our puns. Well, too bad. We're going to have a lot more, pal. You wait till they get to the scene where they're down at town hall or the church or whatever that thing is. You wait. I have a ton in that one. Anyway, yes. This set of scenes doesn't have a ton as far as stuff going on. It has a lot of setup for what comes next. And I think, like you said, the red herring with Christina Ricci's character, I think that, or Katrina, excuse me, that's awesome. And because I fell for it the first time I ever saw it, that's why it's awesome. Because now, as you're first of all, I love a whodunit. So as you go through the film and you're kind of trying to figure out who this could be, you kind of have your eyes on the dad, or at least I did. I'm like, this is probably all the dad. But then you get the kind of slow reveal that all four of these guys are involved in this other thing, and you're not really suspecting who it ends up being, or at least I didn't. Then you get the Katrina red hair. I'm like, this is going to be some crazy stuff. This is going to be her the whole time, and you don't really get that. So I like that. I love the fact that Ichabod Crane is scared of a spider. He's cool with headless people on the ground. How Ichabod Crane is scared of a spider, but not scared of headless people lying on the ground or a headless horseman. Like, that blows my mind. Like, I love that little touch. Like, it's funny. Like, I get why, because, if you notice, and you mentioned it, Brian, he uses people as a shield, and especially Matt Smith, as the movie goes along. So it's not like he's some brave dude. He's kind of a little bit of a scaredy cat in certain ways. And so, that's so I kind of think it fits the character. It was really, done really well. And the evil eye, I like that that's kind of a theme throughout the film. They keep it in there. I like that. But again, not a lot of big time stuff happening. Just some establishing shots, some establishing character stuff as the movie goes on.
Mike, I'm so pissed at myself that I didn't say that Ichabod let the cardinal out of a secret window at the beginning. God, I fumbled the bag on that one.
You did, because I have a secret window one later, pal.
All right, I'll move on to the next set of scenes. Ichabod and Masbeth see someone sneaking into the woods and follow after them. He sees the Reverend and Lady Van Tassel making love. She cuts her hand and rubs blood on his back. Ichabod gets back to his room and sees his evidence is missing. Katrina took it and burnt it. He tells her father is to gain from these murders. Katrina says he has no heart, and she almost gave him hers. She leaves on her horse and says she curses the day he arrived at Sleepy Hollow. Lady Van Tassel points out that Ichabod hasn't asked how she got her hand wound, and she says she knows he saw her and to promise he won't tell. Baltus storms in and tells them Notary Hardenbrook hung himself, and Ichabod needs to leave now. Big meeting at the church tonight. Baltus finds Lady Van Tassel in her garden, then the Headless Horseman approaches behind her. Baltus tells Katrina the horseman killed her stepmother. The horseman gallops towards the church, and everyone runs inside to hide. Reverend tells Baltus he'll get us all killed. He's the one the horseman wants. They begin to shoot the horseman, and Ichabod says he cannot enter. He can't cross the gate. The Reverend bashes the doctor's head with a cross, and Baltus shoots the Reverend. The crowd all chase after Baltus. The horseman throws like a gate spike tied to a rope through the window, snatching Baltus out the church. He chops Baltus' head off. Katrina passes out, and Ichabod sees the evil eye on the floor and all of the dead men. Ichabod says an evil spirit possessed Katrina and tells her goodbye. He now tosses his journal with her name written in it into the fire. He heads outside, and Masbeth says he can't think it was Katrina. He tells Masbeth it's a hard world and to learn from it. Farewell, he says as he boards the horse and buggy. Katrina awakes and sees Ichabod ride away. Ichabod spins his pendant, and he watches a body being taken with a hand wound into the doctor's operating room. He reads in his book The Evil Eye Protects Loved Ones and turns the coach around. He goes to the operating room and notices the wound on the woman's hand was from a person already dead. Lady Van Tassel enters the room with Katrina, and she passes out as if she's seen a ghost. She cuts a piece of Katrina's hair and summons the horseman to come kill Katrina. It storms out the tree towards Sleepy Hollow. Lady Van Tassel says she controls the horseman. She reveals her identity. Her family name is Archer. She tells her story to Katrina. She now tells Katrina of the day they met the horseman. She offered her soul to Satan if he would revenge the Hessians. She now tells of how she controlled all the deaths. She tells her she gets everything if she dies. She killed her own sister in the woods at the cave, and the horseman is coming for you. All right, Brian, go ahead and we'll finish up the ending in the next scene.
Yeah, I mean, I fucking love this church scene. It gives you all of this lore and information with just like a few sentences and just a little bit of dialogue, and then on top of everything, we get this amazing Mortal Kombat Scorpion get over here from the Horseman, who just looked fucking amazing. And then Baltus is drugged through the damn cemetery and beheaded. Are you kidding me? What else could you ask for? What else in a movie? What else could you ask for? I mean, that was everything. But then cinematography wise, you get this amazing, like over the top, like physically over the top, not like, too much over the top. All right, let's go with beautiful panning scene sequence over Katrina and the two other dead bodies in the church. I thought that was an amazing sequence. Just another ridiculously awesome line too, after Crane saying he's beaten down by reason, and then says, villainy wears many masks, none so dangerous as the mask of virtue. Like, holy shit, saying, you're doing something that is wrong basically is okay because you're doing it for a virtuous reason in your eyes. So fucking deep, man. Like just such great writing there. It's just so many layers. And lastly, though, a little nitpick, the servant girl, Sarah, that it shows here, again, I think it's another mistake. I think with her head getting chopped off, it was chopped off like all the others. It was cauterized and everything. And first off, like Rita Skeeter here is not cutting her head off with one fucking swipe. Let's just say that. But let's just get that out of the way. But, since it wasn't done by the horseman and his cauterizing blade, shouldn't it have just been like fucking blood spewing everywhere and everything like that? Not perfectly cut like everybody else's. Just throwing that out there. I think that was a little bit of a mistake. That's all I have, Mike.
Yeah, this is my favorite set of scenes in the film. For every reason you said, but let's start when Crane kind of discovers that Lady Van Tassel is committing infidelity and who it's with. Like it's just the first time you see her, like, wait, what the fuck is going on here, man? Like it's very odd. And the cut on her hand, I really appreciated that little note because it comes back around later and makes more sense. I really like that. But I like that scene, man. I think it puts Ichabod Crane in a very awkward position because he thinks the dad is he thinks Katrina's dad is behind the whole thing. And then he's in love with Katrina, and then now her stepmom is a cheater, which is what I named the name of this video cast that we're doing tonight. But so I really like that scene, that discovery. It's good. It comes into play again later. And then you get kind of like the breakup, the fake breakup of him and Katrina. Like the acting by Christina Ricci there, I really enjoy. She's very serious about it. I think it's really, really good. And Ichabod Crane kind of holds his ground. He doesn't give in. He says, right is right and wrong is wrong. And I really like that. And I like the line that she delivers as she rides off about how, curse the day you ever showed up in Sleepy Hollow, which, again, red herring, because I'm thinking that means, she's about to kill this motherfucker. Like, this is the end for Ichabod Crane. But, as we know, it goes a different way. So you get the stuff in the court or the church or courtroom or whatever you call this. Everyone's breaking out secret windows. You're welcome, pal. Sorry. Hey, Dustin, I think you missed my Nightmare on Elm Street reference, but that's okay. It was great. Trust me. But anyway, yeah, so I love everything here too, man. Don't you make that face at me, Brian. Don't you make that face.
I would never make puns like that. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
Okay, pal. Okay. All right. Anyway, so I love everything here. There's so much going on. First of all, you get the reveal to, we know all four of these guys are involved, but they get the reveal to the public and each other, and Katrina too, as well. She kind of finds out her dad is not so innocent like she was hoping for. Beating someone over the head with a big cross and that's how they die. That's some pretty crazy shit, man. Like that's something I'd never seen before. That's pretty wild. There's just so much chaos in a good way. And I like the fact that the Headless Horseman cannot enter this building because there's a fence. That is because otherwise he probably would have came in and just beat the fuck out of everyone in the movie. Right. And I do think that's a nice touch where it's like, can't get in because there's a gate up around here. So like that little touch as well.
I think it's more the religious, like,
right. Well,
property.
He mentioned that he can't get in because there's a fence or gate or something like that. He slipped a line in there, or at least that's what I thought I heard. So maybe the gate is a representation of something like gates of heaven. It's a church. I don't know. That's what I thought I heard.
Well, it's not the ninth gate.
God damn it.
That's a good movie.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Well, it's almost like there's a big black mass hanging around. Anyway, so what? Oh, no one's seen Black Mass? Whatever, man. Anyway, yeah, that's all I had. It's my favorite set of scenes strictly because of this church scene where I just think it's the good kind of chaos. I really enjoy it.
It's crazy how you and I get made out to be public enemies with all these puns. I like this set of scenes as well. The thing is, though, this is where the story gets a little convoluted and a little wonky. I could understand if you're a diehard Sleepy Hollow traditionalist, though this would kind of piss you off because it's not just so cut and dry with the original. But let that go, pal. The church scene was great. I love the panic of the people. I love the atmosphere. I love the stalking of the horseman outside, just kind of going back and forth. He can't cross, but he's out there ready to whoop ass. I did love Baltus being dragged and killed. I agree, Brian. That scene was awesome. Overall, I mean, and then we get Lady Von Tessa, the corpse bride. I think that that this set of scenes does a lot to advance us to get us to where we're going as far as the grand finale. There is just a lot going on at times, I feel like, but it's okay, and I still enjoy it. you guys touched on a lot of what I had. A lot of it is atmosphere to me and aesthetic as far as how great everything looks. So that's all I got. I won't drag this one out that much longer. Go ahead.
It's almost like you could say Sleepy Hollow is a city of lies. All right, anyway.
Yeah. All right.
God, this episode is from hell. I tell you what.
All right. Here's
I'm
the
picking that
ending.
movie.
It's almost like Ichabod Crane is the tourist or something. I don't know. Weird times.
All right. Ichabod arrives, and he and Katrina and Mazvid block off the door and head to the roof. The horseman follows them up top, hacking at them. Ichabod drops a lamp into the windmill, lighting it on fire. They take the windmill to the ground and ride away. The horseman exits the ablaze windmill as they take off in the buggy. The horseman quickly approaches, and Ichabod climbs to the back of the buggy, shooting the horseman off of it. He stands up and is knocked off the buggy onto the horseman's horse. He sees the horseman holding onto the buggy. The horseman and Ichabod fight on top of it now, and Ichabod manages to break the buggy away from the horses, launching the horseman into the trees. They make it to the tree of the dead, and Crone arrives. That's Lady Van Tassel, or her twin, or whatever. She shoots Ichabod in the chest. She grabs Katrina by the hair, calling for the horseman. Ichabod tackles her, and we see the horseman's skull fall to the ground. Mazbeth, I hope I can get Dustin to make another reference. Mazbeth whacks Crone with a log, knocking her off Ichabod. He now throws the skull to the horseman before he kills Katrina. He pulls the skull on and transforms into his own head. Horseman stares at them now until his horse comes back to him. He grabs Crone's body, and she awakens to see the horseman. She goes to scream, but the horseman bites her face, and they gallop into the tree of the dead. We see Crone's hand sticking out of the tree as she dies. Ichabod passes out again. A horse and buggy takes Ichabod, Katrina, and Mazbeth to New York, their new home, and they walk into the snowy city. All right, go ahead, Brian. What do you think of the final part of the ending?
Well, right at the start of this, when Lady Von Tassel says, "Watch your head," like as the three run inside the windmill, was apparently ad-libbed on the day by Miranda Richardson, and I thought that was awesome. That was a little dad joke-ish there. I love the little fun there. But that kind of leads me, when I said they run right by her, that kind of leads me to say, like, why don't they just fucking kill her? Like, she's right there, and not even with a weapon like that you see. I mean, I know she has a gun later, but she doesn't even have it out, and those things, take 35 minutes to fire. So, I mean, it's just, I don't know, just kill her. Give the skull back right there. Then we wouldn't get a lot of this rest of this ending, which the rest of the ending with the big windmill action sequence thing on fire, the huge Michael Bay explosion, and then the fight on top of the carriage. Like, to me, it definitely feels like every other action movie from the 90s, a little over the top for me. And that's coming from, I think, the only one here that actually likes those over the top action movies that I'm referring to.
Definitely.
It just seemed too odd doing all this thing with a dude with no head. It just kind of felt like out of place. I don't know. And then we get the cheesy putting on the skull head, and then putting the skull on it where the head was missing. And the man looks like Ghost Rider. And then speaking of Ghost Rider, there was originally a flaming skull sequence to end this here, which they couldn't get the production off the ground for that. But that would 100% been Ghost Rider. But I will say the sequence with the face shifting into Christopher motherfucking Walken, I thought that was amazing. I don't know, just the effects there. I got a fever, and the only cure is more heads, baby. Anyway, all right. So this is where I was talking about, though, earlier, where I think it would have been kind of cool for him to say something, maybe not in Christopher Walken voice, but if you heard him say something like "Time to pay your debt," or Shang Tsung from Mortal Kombat style, "Your soul is mine." I don't know, something to Van Tassel to kind of remind everyone that she sold her soul to the devil for this, and it's time to pay up. I don't know. I thought that would have maybe been pretty cool. The effects jumping back through the tree, I thought were really meh. And but I will say the ending, the great shot on that whole snowy Sleepy Hollow to kind of close it out. It almost needed a bat signal. It was very Batman Returns-esque, I thought, with it. Anyway, well, I'll shut up now. Go ahead.
Man, it's almost like we have the same brain on some of these movies, because this ending to me, it takes me out of the movie. It really, really does. It's a little too over the top. And, I'm okay with that in certain films, but you giving us something a little different for the last hour and 40 minutes. The last 10 minutes it's a little, it's just not very good. Like it doesn't, it's a little too much action cheese stuff. You know, there's fighting on top of a carriage, big explosions, a giant windmill. Like a lot of that stuff just doesn't fit with the rest of this movie to me. And trying to shove something in that I don't think fits the tone that we've set so far. And so I'm just not a fan of it. And I mean, I like some of the visuals, you know, the tree, you know, all that stuff. And first of all, I just want to say, after seeing Johnny Depp ride horses or pretend to ride horses in a few movies now, he can't fake ride a horse for shit, man. His hand like waves like this. Like if you've never seen The Lone Ranger, he sucks riding a horse in that movie too. That movie also sucks. That's one of his few bad ones. But anyway, man, I'm just saying he looks like a goofball fake riding a horse. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, so then you get to the effects of Walken's face and head coming back. I'm mixed on it because it looks really cool, but it's kind of cheesy. It's just, again, I like some camp, but this is like, it's like this is like sleepaway camp. Like it's a little too much, in my opinion. Now once it's all restored, I think Walken's look is cool with the, you know, the triangle teeth and all that stuff. Like, I think it's a cool look, but man, I just don't think that it works for the rest of this movie that we've seen. Now, last thing, I agree with you. That final shot is awesome. It's so perfect with the snow falling. Because like sometimes in a, you know, when a movie is set in kind of one place, even if they go to a different place, this other place looks the same. You can tell they spent a lot of time making this particular area look like colonial New York. Like that is, I think it's really, really awesome. The snow and everything else. And I like they took Masbeth with them. That's a good thing. So yeah, the ending is what really falls flat in my opinion, which is unfortunate.
Triangle teeth, Mike. We would have also accepted sharp teeth.
I'm going to say triangle teeth. They look like triangles. Well, first of all, there's a difference, but they are shaped like literal triangles. You could go back and look. But I just want to say the Headless Horseman is a fantastic beast, baby. Anyway.
Let me ask you something. If you were to file your teeth to a point, what other shape could they possibly be?
Triangle. That's why I called them triangles.
All right.
They could be isosceles triangles.
This whole review is a little obtuse.
You're being obtuse.
I agree with. I mean, that was a cute little thing you did there, Mike. Acute, huh? Math majors.
I think you got them all.
Okay.
You got them all. You got them all.
I think we got them all. Pal.
With this angle. I agree with what you guys said. The ending does lose me a little. It doesn't lose me. It loses my interest. It loses my respect a little. I don't know. It loses my favor compared to the rest of the movie. And really, it started in that last set of scenes. Though, like I said, I feel like some of it was kind of forced together and jumbled, and it carries on into the ending. You know, Nico mentioned the Horseman getting whacked. I mean, this wasn't Dick getting whacked. This was a Dick who got whacked. Ichabod, he's got to stop. He's got to man up. Well, first of all, I did like the head. I don't know. I don't know if I liked it or not, to be honest with you. I go back and forth on this. Throwing him his skull, and he puts his skull on his shoulders. He doesn't have a fucking neck. And then when it grows back, all of a sudden he has a fucking neck. What just happened? He stuck his skull on his shoulders, on his clavicles. Anyway, it did look pretty cool with everything growing back, like especially for the time. Being 1999, hats off. I thought it looked really cool. But why? Well, I don't know. It doesn't really work for me. And then, you know, him getting his revenge and eating her face or whatever the fuck that was about. It was okay.
I mean, what's eating Gilbert Grape? I don't know.
It was okay. But my man Ichabod, he's got to man up. Stop being such a pussy and stop passing out so much. He's afraid of spiders under the bed. Now he's passing out. One of the things, though, about him passing out, Tim Burton has actually commended Johnny Depp on his passing out acting skills, and he said he's a really good wake her upper too. Like he likes the way he wakes up. That's a really weird. I don't know. I mean, is that an underrated quality to have, to be able to pass out well and wake up well? Tim Burton thinks so.
I don't know. Nancy told him not to fall asleep the whole time, and there he is.
Yeah,
still falling asleep.
But in the end, I guess it is nice that our heroes get to live happily ever after. One last Johnny Depp movie. Suck it.
It's almost like the thing in that little thing that he's
Mike
twisting.
won't let you. Mike won't let you.
Well, no. If you really look close, yeah, it's a cardinal, but it could easily be a sparrow. Jack Sparrow. All right, I'm done.
Forced that one.
You damn right I did, baby.
I'm really disappointed, unless I missed it, that y'all didn't make a chocolat reference. But
I tried. I couldn't find one. I tried.
Anywho, any final
that and Chocolate Factory. Like I couldn't fit any of that.
Hey, yeah. Any more final thoughts on the ending? I'll say I'll stand in the paint. I like the ending. It didn't bother me just because it got more action involved and a little less dialogue and mystery. But I understand where y'all coming from.
Well, Nico, I guess that's why you're the professor of the show. You can appreciate that. All right, things that we don't.
Terrible. All right, let's move on. I'm gonna knock out our social media comments real quick. All right, I got it. Eric, I'm sorry. So sorry. We'll start with Twitter.
Deal with it.
Shan, her comment was, love this movie. Just found a picture from Christmas '99 where my parents actually bought me the movie poster for my room. And she just wrote Tim Burton and Johnny Depp is a winning combination. Absolutely. I agree 100%.
Agree.
Yes.
All right, we'll do Facebook now. Kevin Pothoff just wrote, great choice. It's an all-star cast. Michelle Mirza, big fan of the show. Good choice, guys. She loves this movie as well. New legendary blood donor, Missy Hutchison-Wall. She says she loves this story. And John Watson, he said he loves this movie and he can't wait to hear our review on it. And he also commented that he loved our Halloween Kills review. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
And the last one we got is just from Instagram. Jayla Cade from the Gore Girls podcast. Check them out. She just wrote, yes, she loves this movie. Jackson's mommy, she's actually got a question. We'll do that one next. But Laughing Man 45 says, such a great movie. I don't think it should be remade. Tim Burton brought the A-team. Speaking of remake, sure. Jackson's mommy wrote, great movie, but do you think this movie should be remade now? I'll go first.
I mean, they made a TV series, right?
Yeah, there's a TV series.
Yeah, they made a TV series, so but I don't think they should remake the movie. I mean, what are you going to do different? I mean, I don't know.
I'm going to answer this kind of like how Vincent DeSanti answered about the Friday the 13th stuff. Sure, make your own adaptation of it, but you're going to be held against this one, I think, if you do make it.
That's true.
That's just my opinion. Yeah, make your own movie, make your adaptation, do it how you want to do it, but you're going to be compared to this one and everything before, so good luck. Go ahead, Dustin.
I want them to would I want them to remake this movie using the same storyline and the same characters and to have the same vision that Tim Burton did? No. Would I want them to adapt it, make it their own, like you said, Nico? Yes.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, there's so much shit getting remade month in and month out. It seems like we're getting another reboot of something. And it's like Hollywood doesn't have any original ideas anymore. So I'm sure they could find something else to do, some other ancient story to make into a movie that hasn't been done before. It's a tall task to remake this movie because of how good it is. But if you're going to do it, you got to make it your own because you're not going to top this one. Yeah,
I mean, I'm adamantly a fan of remakes if they're done, not shot for shot like Psycho. I've said that, I've said it from Jump Street, 21 Jump Street, that I'm a big fan of remakes. That's a Johnny Depp TV show. Thank you very much.
And he was in the movie.
Yeah, I know. So anyway, I'm a fan of remakes, but I wouldn't necessarily say that a new Sleepy Hollow movie would be a remake of this one. You could just do your own adaptation like you all mentioned. So I think this story will be remade. Like, there's no doubt in my mind down the road, 30, 40, like they're going to make another Sleepy Hollow movie because it's a timeless tale, timeless short story. And as long as you make it your own, I'm cool with it.
Yeah. All right. Let's jump into fun facts real quick. I only have a couple of them. I hope I don't repeat any of them. Johnny Depp adopted Goldeneye, the horse that played Gunpowder. Ichabod Crane's horse in the film when he heard it was going to be put down. I thought that was pretty awesome. It was only after being cast as the Headless Horseman that Christopher Walken admitted to director Tim Burton that he actually did not know how to ride a horse. Johnny Depp did all of his own stunts for Johnny Depp did all of his own stunts for the final scene where he was dragged by the horse. He had bulletproof clothing underneath his wardrobe. Johnny Depp initially found the idea of Christina Ricci being his love interest in this film to be rather odd, seeing as he's known her since she was 9 years old. But that's the only fun facts I got.
I only have two. This movie and Bringing Out the Dead from '99 were the last movies to be released on Laserdisc. Fun fact: I never owned one Laserdisc. I was just a straight from DVD to Blu-ray guy. And last, another little fun fact: in real life, Casper Van Dien has relatives in Milton named Van Tassel.
Okay.
I said all mine during the show, so I don't really have any.
The budget for this movie was $70 million, which we talked about at the top of the show. Quite a bit of cash, and you could tell they used a lot of it in their set design and everything else. I think it looks great visually. The box office was $207 million, so it made a shit ton of money for already having a pretty high budget. It made a lot of money back, so I'm just glad this isn't one of those stories that needs a sequel because I don't need it. Thanks.
All right, let's jump into the favorite kill, least favorite kill, and the rating. I'll just go first tonight. I'll go first. I'm cool with it. Favorite kill, I chose Baltus. Snatched out of the church, drug across the ground, head chopped off. I just wrote it's got a little more razzle-dazzle with the decapitation because that's what most of the kills are. Least favorite, I chose Killian's child off screen. I mean, that kid didn't deserve it. I just wrote beautiful scenery and shots. Yet again, I'm going to give praise to Colleen Atwood. Did a great job with the costumes. I'm going to send her a DM on Instagram, see if we can get her on the show, talk about it. I think that'd be an interesting interview to have. Great acting and cast, fun take on the story that I really enjoy. Love Walken as an evil entity, Headless Horseman. Johnny Depp, great like expected. Only cons I'd say is it's just, Sleepy Hollow is just not a movie I want to pick up and watch very often. It's kind of like a Halloween flick. I also feel like it goes on a little too long with some of the stretches of dialogue, but that's just a nitpick, really. I gave it a 7.75. I like it.
Okay. Hey, I'll go ahead and go. Mine's short and sweet. My favorite kill was Baltus Astria as well, but I'm going to go ahead and change it since you picked it. And Killian's head getting chopped off, the way that one was shot, I don't know. I liked it. It stood out to me. My least favorite kill was also Killian's child, but not because he didn't deserve it. It was because I wanted to see it on screen and wanted to see the kid get his head chopped off.
Jesus. Maybe you get the Man Fuck Them Kids award.
I'm going for that Lifetime Achievement Award. Anyway, something else I didn't mention, I almost would have liked to have seen the Horseman have more of a tragic backstory, maybe kind of like the real short story did.
Yeah.
But again, just like the relationship being too rushed, it's too long of a movie. I mean, you would have been in 2 hours, 15-minute neighborhood. That's just too long. I love this movie, especially during October. I think the ending brings it down a notch or two for me, but I gave it an 8.25.
Okay.
Yeah. My favorite kill is sorry, Dusty. You want to go ahead?
No, go ahead.
Okay. My favorite kill is also Killian, which I talked about during the scene. Badass. And my least favorite kill is the kid and Killian, Killian's kid. That's tough. I mean, again, I like when a movie has the balls, but I kind of agree with you, Brian. I never thought about that. They should have just shown it, man. Screw it. I mean, hell, it's a rated R film anyway. Whatever. Who cares, right? Yeah, so I've kind of said everything I have to say. Great atmosphere movie, great Halloween movie. I think it's one of Tim Burton's more underrated films that I don't think he gets a lot of credit for, at least in my opinion. It's not one of the major ones I hear talked about when you hear Tim Burton. And so I think it should be. I think it's a really good adaptation of the source material. I think the acting and the cast is really, really good. I think it's just hokey and campy enough, just serious enough. It toes the line so well to me. The ending bumps it down some. I just think it's a little too much like watching one of The Rock's movies. As much as I love The Rock, his movies are not my favorite thing in the world. I love him for other reasons, wrestling and his fitness and all this other stuff. His movies, I don't think I've watched one in a very long time. So that should explain that. Yeah, so all that being said, it bumped it down a little bit, but not too bad. I gave it a 7.25.
You're tripping, man. Walking Tall is awesome.
Walking Tall is awesome.
Yes, it is awesome.
Walking Tall, the
Rundown is great.
Gridiron Gang. No, it's not.
I didn't really. Gridiron Gang is all right. Anyway,
Oh,
this is not a rock movie show. I think we've already hit rock bottom for
Coming
puns
to
on this show
podcast-
as well.
coming to podcast feeds near you. Dustin and Mike review all the Rocks movies.
Jesus Christ, the People's Podcast.
If you smell what we're cooking, baby.
My favorite kill, I went a little bit different route. I mentioned earlier, I think that when Magistrate Phillips was killed, it was awesome because we do get a lot of decapitations. So when you have a different twist on one, it spruces it up and it makes it stand out a little bit. So the way that it was shot, we're standing, the camera's behind Magistrate Phillips, Horseman's riding towards him, towards the camera. He chops his head off and it spins in a circle, like spins around on his torso before it falls. I thought that was pretty awesome. My least favorite kill was different as well. If you go back early in the film and they show the Horseman when before he's killed and he's whooping ass in that war scene where he's just killing people left and right.
Oh yeah,
He cuts a fucking dude's arm off and his body just falls. He killed a dude by cutting his arm off. That's a pretty lame ass kill. That guy's a pussy.
okay, all right.
My favorite, as far as my rating goes, like I said, this is a movie that's very, very watchable or very rewatchable, considering the time period. A lot of movies don't age well. This one does. I think that this movie is great in cinematography. The atmosphere is great. The score is great. The acting, the cast is great. The dialogue is great. There's just so much going for it that I really like it. I like that it's a unique spin on a classic tale. So there's just a lot of things that are going right for it. I gave this movie a 7.5, and that
I gave it the lowest score.
You did. That was shocking. My our composite rating for this one is a 7.6875.
Slightly above IMDb.
What is that? What is it?
IMDb is at 7.3 with 345,000 reviews.
Okay.
Yeah, but we're right there with them, though.
That's right.
All right. Any more final thoughts before we shout out our blood donors and announce our Dustin's pick for next week?
Oh.
All right. I'll shout out the blood donors out real quick, Dustin.
Yep.
I'm gonna shout out the legendary blood donors first. We still have to do Ms. Joe Swinford's pick. We'll be doing that soon. I'm glad you're feeling better. And our new legendary blood donor, Miss Missy Wall. Appreciate you very much. Our camp level reoccurring is Clayton J, Nina, Miss Michelle Mirza, Andrew Ferguson. And we recently picked up a new one, the Horror Movie Crew podcast. Appreciate that, guys. Camp counselors is Hunter Nelson, Karen, Miss Shan Petrusevich, and Dennis Kennedy. Just want to thank all of you so much for helping us, supporting us, and helping us
Absolutely
pay these light bills and all that. We really appreciate it. Dustin, you want to go ahead and announce your pick for next week?
Yeah. So my next pick is a movie that I fucking love. I think it's a classic. The casting is great. I mean, when we're talking Jared Leto, Willem Dafoe as supporting roles, and you get the great Christian Bale. That's right. I'm taking it back to the same era as this movie. Just 1 year later, we went from 99 to the 2000, like we're the big timers in Juvenile. I'm going with American Psycho for my next pick. Now, this movie kind of, when I think of this movie, I honestly don't really think horror. But it's a lot of vicious kills, so I could see, he is a slasher. IMDb has this movie listed as a comedy/crime/drama, but
comedy.
My boys,
there's some humor in it for sure.
Oh, it's fucking hilarious! I think this movie's hilarious.
There's some...
my people over at Rotten Tomatoes, they have this movie classified as a comedy/horror, so we're right there. So hey,
we reviewed Beetlejuice. Not a lot of horror in that, so I think we're okay.
Yeah, the true horror was making me watch House of Wax, but this movie is great. I think we'll all enjoy it.
Man, listen.
Sorry.
You made us watch the Hellraiser franchise. You can kiss my ass.
And Ghost of Mars. We didn't even fucking review the damn movie.
I didn't make y'all do anything. This is a free
watching the movie. I'm watching the movie midway through it. Hey, this movie sucks. Can we not do it? Anywho,
Didn't make me watch any Hellraiser movie ever. You piece of.
Hey, Mike, speaking of Hellraiser, let's go ahead and announce a exciting episode we got coming out. If you're listening to this episode, it's probably Wednesday. Well, if you don't have any plans at 8 o'clock on Thursday, join us on YouTube, Facebook, and I believe Periscope. Does it go on Periscope as well, Mike?
It's just Twitter. No, Periscope no longer exists, but it's Twitter Live.
See, I'm old. I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
Twitter,
I just found out.
YouTube, and Facebook will be live. Just like last year, we ranked the Halloween, Friday the 13th, and Nightmare on Elm Street franchises. This year, we'll be We'll be ranking the Scream, Child's Play, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Hellraiser franchises. I think that'll be fun after we get through all the Hellraisers and we actually get to some real movies to review and rank. But tune in with us while we shit on Hellraiser and then review the rest of them. Any more thoughts?
Sean, hey, Irwin, I know that you're going to listen to this. I got your back, brother. I will stand in the paint with you on Hellraiser. Hellraiser 2 is going to be my number one movie.
Hellraiser 6.
Pull up the text.
Hellraiser 6 is good.
I'm about to pull up the text and post them online where Dustin said he regrets picking Hellraiser because they stink.
That is not pull up that test. That test doesn't exist.
That's basically what you said. You didn't have to say it.
Don't twist my words.
That's what you said. And I said you picked it and you said that you regret it. It's literally in the text in 4K, bud. Somewhere in there.
Horse shit. Don't make me start pulling text. Don't make me start pulling text.
All right, let's go ahead and wrap this episode up.
Hey, going a little farther, pal. Come on. Easy.
Hey, just want to thank all our fans and listeners. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
You guys are awesome. The past few months, episodes have been blowing up. We really appreciate all the new listeners. If you are a new listener and you're not connected with us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, check us out. Send us questions, comments. I mean, we can't get any positive or negative feedback unless you tell us so. We'd love to hear all your comments. Thanks for all the support, and y'all have a good one.
Listen on Thursday. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Next Generation, #1 film. See ya.